We work with high schoolers in South Seattle, in the South Seattle area.
Kayleen, I think we lost your audio. We're just going to hold on for a moment.
Everyone looks frozen.
We may have lost Kayleen for the moment.
Okay, wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. It looked like everyone was frozen for a second. I was like, oh no, this is not good. So anyway, so we have a couple different layers of community that we really provide for our students and our mentors. And what we do is we have the first layer of community, which is just the mentors. We really focus on building a community within that group of mentors, of volunteers that we have before we really integrate the students. And once we integrate the students, then the students have kind of their first preference and first choice of the different mentors that they really want to work one-on-one with. And then beyond that, we have what's called family groups. And family groups is like a small group of 4 to 5 matches per group. And sorry, did you guys lose me?
Nope, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So anyways, so for family groups, it is an added layer of that community, because what happens is, since we're working with minors, it's really hard for us to provide that type of one-on-one mentoring from opposite genders. And so the family group adds like a layer of that, being able to have that connection with different mentors beyond just their gender or just maybe your connection with them. And so you're kind of creating a little small group within the larger group and the larger community. And so it's really cool because we're able to do a lot of different competitions between family groups and kind of create more camaraderie, which then kind of allows that extra layer of support and safety net for the students, because it's not like they just have one mentor. They have 4 or 5 other mentors that they can go to within their family group if they do find themselves in a place where they're not able to get a hold of their mentor, or they just have a better connection in terms of like, oh, this person's in mechanical engineering and that's really what I'm focused on and what I want to do when I graduate high school. So that's kind of the group mentoring kind of structure that we have at Community for Youth. I guess the second one, what aspects of the structure has really suffered? So a lot of the structures really suffered just from not having that one-on-one connection and in-person like interactions that they have with their mentors, the students with the mentors, and even with the family groups too. So another thing that we've also noticed that's really kind of suffered is the lack of kind of engagement and attention that we're getting from the students and sometimes the mentors too, to be honest. And so there's a lot of different things that have been affected in terms of the different layers and different kind of structuring that we have. And so we are trying to find creative ways to really kind of combat those different things. And so we've restructured our whole program around really what is best for the students, and acknowledging that the students are going from, you know, having that one-on-one in-person kind of connection all the time to now it's over a virtual screen. And I think the internet is also a way that students, or just young people in general, try to avoid older people. And so the fact that we're kind of infiltrating that space is also really, really kind of polarizing for them, because that's kind of what they use to escape reality. And if we're also trying to get into that space, then it becomes a little bit more like they're resistant and a little bit more resentful to getting online and trying to connect with their mentor like through a screen. So a couple different things that we're really doing is we're considering different online platforms that we can start to integrate into our next cohort or our next year. But the thing about it is that we don't necessarily want to go fully online, because I don't think that's not really the point of our program specifically. But what we want to do is really try to integrate it into our normal programming, so that if something like this were to happen, it wouldn't be so polarizing for students to have to jump online and connect with their mentor. Because with my small team of like 5 staff members that aren't even in the office full time, trying to wrangle students, trying to make sure everybody has appropriate Wi-Fi connection. And it is, quite frankly, a little bit out of touch for us to just assume that all of our students would have access to Wi-Fi, especially if we're working with the demographic that we're working with. And so how are we trying to be cognizant of that? How are we trying to be aware of that and try to kind of work ahead of that, of those barriers that do come up? Because even if they do have a Wi-Fi connection, it might not be the best Wi-Fi connection, right? And it's going to be in and out, kind of like what we're experiencing with my internet connection. So that's kind of something that we're trying to kind of work through as a team and just as a program. Some of the other ways that we've really encouraged our mentors to get really involved, because it really does come from the mentors that are willing to kind of roll up their sleeves and kind of get into the culture of young people. So we've been doing a lot of we've been encouraging them to do a lot of snail mail, writing each other postcards and letters. I think that's a really, big thing that's kind of come up, and I think we have more time for now. We do a lot of online games. We do a lot of online workshops. The thing about the workshops, though, is that we're really, really aware of not making it so infiltrated with programming and lecturing, because they're getting so much of that from online schooling. So sometimes a lot of it is just, hey, come online, connect with us. We're going to play games. And we've been playing a lot of fun online games.
On again. There you go.
Yeah, I'm getting some technical difficulties on my computer as well, so I apologize.
Oops, can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure where I left off in the connection, but
Online games.
Okay, online games, yes. So we've been doing a lot of scavenger hunt. So I'll say something that they need to find in their house, and I'll give them 10 seconds to run in their house and find that thing and bring it back to the camera and be like, I have nail clippers. Or they'll come back and be like, I found an apple in my house. And so that's been a really fun one. Also a great way to wear them out too, energy-wise. Another one we've done is the whisper game. So we're all on mute, or that person is on mute, and they have to mouth a word or a phrase, and everybody has to kind of guess it. And that's actually been a lot of laughter, just because we're all looking up at the screen, trying to understand and see what that person's saying. And so that's been a really fun one. Trying to think of some other ones. Pictionary is a really great one. Charades is a really great one. A lot of games that you can do, catchphrase. There's a lot of different ones that you can kind of alternate back onto a virtual connection or a virtual online platform. Another app that's really great is called House Party. That one is a really cool one. It is a little bit it could be inappropriate depending on the age demographic you're working with, but when you're working with kids in the South Side, you're just kind of it's all good, it's free for all kind of thing. And so it is a lot of us meeting them where they're at, and so we'll play games on there, and it's cool because you can play a game on your
I think we lost you again, Kayleen.
Let's switch. Might we switch people and see if that's a problem, then come back?
Sure. Hey, Kayleen, do you mind
Yes.
if we try to tail back around to you towards the end of the meeting?
Yeah, totally. Are we yes. Is that my time?
Oh, no. It's connection issues, and we're going to work on it.
Good.
Really quickly, thank you so much, Kayleen. I see that Tom and Eddie are in the video chat. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I saw them.
Okay. So we have Tom Pinella and Eddie Purpose to discuss Progress Pushers group model, how it is being affected by COVID-19 and the strategies that you guys are implementing to maintain.
Okay, and this is Tom Pinella, member of Mentor Washington, and also on loan from Department of Youth and Family Services, DCYF. I just want to take a 60-second kind of set Eddie up to talk about the stuff that he does with young folks in our state. He works with the most vulnerable youth there. He's working with juvenile justice, our juvenile justice systems. I've been working with Eddie the last 2 years. He's working in a system where it's at a 14% graduation rate. 70% of the kids are kids of color, predominantly Black and brown kids in our system. He does group mentoring, one-on-one mentoring, and it's incredible, the stuff. And it's called, part of what he does is called Credible Messengers. Is it a program within Progress Pushers, but he brings to the institutions things that kids are normally forgotten when we think about that. And these kids are soon to be released, many of them, back out to the communities. And Eddie works with these young folks throughout the gamut, not only within the institution, out to the group homes, and ultimately back to the communities. And I'm listening to Mike Geringer and other things today. But what he does really well with him and his crew is they work with young folks in when they're at the most in crisis. The reason that we selected him, and I'll stop in a second, is that we wanted someone like Eddie to come into the institutions because the kids there, they were acting out. The staff didn't know how to respond in many circumstances, and they weren't getting the rehabilitation that they needed. And so they weren't involved with classes. They weren't doing a number of things. And Eddie was able to get them back in on the right path through his experience, the experience of other mentors, and so they can now participate, so they can go on their journey. So just want to let it there that it's a great program, and I'll turn it over to Eddie the remainder of the time. Thank you, Vic and Janet, for setting this up.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, how's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Absolutely, good to see everybody.
Question of the day, isn't it?
Right, yeah, it's serious. Definitely good to see everybody. Thanks for having me. Definitely want to give a shout out to Tom for even connecting me to speak on some of what we do. And you guys who are hosting it, definitely much appreciations. And those of you guys who are watching. Anyway, that being said, I guess getting right to it. So like Tom was speaking on, Progress Pushers is actually an organization that that was founded not too long ago by myself. So this was 2017. We began providing services in 2018. However, to give a little history, I'm a firm believer that, when we talk about veterans who have been, in war and things to that nature, in battle, it takes another veteran for they can relate to, right? Those who are recovering from alcoholism and drugs and that nature, it takes somebody else who has been through that experience for they can relate to. And so the same concept really applies to what we do. All of our facilitators, including myself, have been impacted by the system, now working with the youth who are either impacted by systems or, according to society standards, will be impacted at one point in time in their life, right? And so what we do is we intervene and we intercept and we provide mentorship through group facilitation. And one of the models that we do utilize is under the National Credible Messenger model. Credible Messenger actually was a phrase that was coined by Eddie Ellis while he was incarcerated in a New York State penitentiary. And so we offer these group facilitations to youth who are in institutions, in communities, community centers. We do in-school groups. Now, of course, COVID-19 has impacted that because schools are shut down, institutions, aren't allowing us to come there. But, just like with anything else, we got to make adjustments, and we've been definitely making our adjustments by doing virtual groups. Now, unfortunately, we work with a lot of population of youth who don't necessarily have access to phones outside of Wi-Fi, right? And so we've been taking proper steps in order to, just have more one-on-ones with them, and so the group dynamic looks different with some of the areas that we do service. But to get more so into the curriculum, some of you guys may be wondering, what exactly do you guys actually facilitate and teach on? And so I myself began teaching at the end of my 13-year sentence. Actually, the last 4 years, I taught a curriculum called Ready for Release to men who was transitioning out to the free world. And so with that experience, I brought that on to Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, as well as South Seattle College. and then got introduced to this credible messenger model, and then was blessed enough to be introduced to Tom Piniella, who worked it out to where we were able to get inside of the institution Green Hill. And so we began our pilot program there last year, and we continue to provide services at Green Hill. Now, because of COVID-19, obviously our groups have been, like I said, impacted. So what we've been doing is more one-on-ones, more phone calls and things like that. And we are in conversation with them on how we can proceed with virtual groups. And so the curriculum mainly consists of 4 different phases that I have created. And one phase is life skills, and we're digging deep on life skills. You know, when we talk about, when you look in the mirror, who do you see, right? Who are you not seeing, right? When we talk about goals, you know, not just what is the goal, but how are you going to reach the goal? What steps does it really need to take in order for you to get there? But we go even deeper than that. You know, we go to generational curses, and how, you know, I use myself, for example, and how, you know, my father didn't graduate high school and went to prison as a teenager. So did his father, which was my grandfather. And unfortunately, so did I. And so how do we break these generational curses that many of the young folks who we are working with are experiencing, right? And, you know, there's a famous quote that says, if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat it. And that's including your family as well. And so we really dive deep. And, you know, many of our classes, tears are shed because of the content that we're covering, because these are conversations that are not had at home. These are conversations that are not had within schools. These are not conversations that they never even thought about, and they're not having them with their peers, right? And so one thing I do appreciate the peer model is that they have an opportunity to become peer leaders themselves at the completion of our transformational process. We try to stay away from a program. We call it the transformational process because it is a transformational process. So life skills, we got leadership development, job readiness. So not just how do you get the job, how do you keep a job? And again, this is content coming from individuals who had to overcome the stigma of being a felon. And so for me, somebody who has actually been through this, I can now tell you, this young man or young woman who has a felony on his or her record, that these are some of the things, these are some of the steps that you would need to take in order to be successful when it comes to obtaining a job or a career or starting your own business like myself. And so the last and final phase that we go through is called a civic engagement. And this is outside of themselves. This connects them to the larger picture, right? When we talk about civic engagement, what they do is they split up into small groups, and they'll identify a social issue of their concern. It can be racism, it can be gangbanging, it can be drugs and the effects that it has on a young brain in its developmental stages. Whatever the issue is, they'll decide as a small group, they'll research that issue thoroughly, and then they'll come up with solutions. Because as we know, it's one thing to identify an issue or problem, but it's a completely, entirely different thing to come up with a solution for what you've identified as a problem. And as we know, these are leaders of the new generation. And so we put them into leadership positions. And at the completion of that phase, they then, you know, we invite everybody, the community, we invite, you know, senators and different politicians to come and hear the genius of these young folks. And you know, that's one of our final phases that we actually go through. So it's definitely a process. Ages that we serve are usually 12 to 24. Definitely intervention, those who are mainly impacted by the system, but we also provide services to those youth who need to do some preventative measures, right? So like I said, maybe you haven't been impacted by the system, but according to society standards and your generational curses and your peers, right? You will be impacted at one point in time. And so we do intervention as well as prevention. We got community-based models, in-school-based models, as well as juvenile institution-based models as well.
Hey, Eddie.
Yeah.
All right, can you guys hear me right now? My Zoom says not responding.
I hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I just want to point out some questions I see popping up in the chat box, and I do apologize. My screen is almost completely white right now. So Janet, you asked, what does a session look like? How many adults are in the room? How many kids are in the room?
Great question. And so with the community model, the in-school model, and the juvenile institution, like for example, with the juvenile institution model at Green Hill, we always have at least 2 facilitators, and that's what any group facilitation that we do. There's at least 2. And so I like what I think Mike Geringer was explaining earlier about one of the best outcomes, 10 to 12. I actually agree with that. 10 to 12 is great. However, in our in-school models, for example, we got 20 to 30, and but it's not just 2 facilitators. It's also in our in-school model in West Seattle, all of the teachers actually are present in the room, and they're in the group, right? They're not just in the room observing, they're actually in the group going through the same process. And I love that because they're learning from us. So they're learning things like effective engagement, things that they haven't been utilizing, motivational interviewing, CBT and things of that nature. And so the juvenile institutions, though, of course, being that this is a juvenile institution, they have different rules and regulations, and they have at least one staff member, actually 2 staff members present at every group. And like I said, we encourage any adults in the room to actually be a part of the process and not just observe the process. We're not staring at cages and monitoring animals here. We should be a part of this process learning just as well. So,
So I think I see Karen. Yeah, thanks, Eddie. I see Karen nodding. I want to be sure that that we pick up on what, because Karen runs a group model as well. Vic, just jump in.
Also, just a heads up.
Karen looks familiar too.
This meeting does go to 2 p.m. So we
okay.
More time.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So then, Eddie, you mind if I ask you just a few more questions?
Absolutely not. Go ahead.
Okay. Robin's asking, are the youth mentored after release?
Yeah, so it goes back to what Tom Pinella was saying initially, and that is the point, is to catch them when they fall, so to speak. And so we definitely, especially those who are coming to the areas that we are in right now, and because we're such a new and emerging organization, of course, we don't have a long reach throughout Washington State like we hope to have one day. But as of right now, those youth who definitely come to King, Pierce County, some even in Snohomish, we have resources and services that we can tap into that we have linked them to. For example, there was a young man that Tom had just sent my way who had got into some trouble himself. And about a month ago, and myself and that young man have been in contact every single week, and we've been able to connect him with our services for a contract that we have with the city, and talked him through how to get a job and what you should say in an interview when addressing your criminal history. And he now works for Costco, doing really well. And so, we do follow up. There was a young man named Aaron who got out of Green Hill, who was a part of our pilot group, who had got released to, I believe, the Tri-Cities. And, throughout his entire time of incarceration, he hadn't learned the skills on how to obtain employment until he took our group. And within less than 2 weeks of him being out, he actually received, got a job at Taco Bell or something like that. And so just a few examples, we definitely stay followed up, even if they don't get out to our direct area. We definitely try to provide additional resources and services, because that is the point, right? You can build somebody up, especially in a place like prison or juvenile institutions. You can build somebody up and get them to that point of, oh, I feel hope now. I feel I can make it now. But what do I have to go out to? I'm going back to the same exact situation that I left, and this is how recidivism happens, right? And so we definitely want to be there for them in a way that unfortunately many different organizations aren't able to do so.
Right. Thank you. Janet, I see that you had a question. Was it to Jim or was it for Tom and Eddie? Oh, pardon, you're muted.
Sorry. But the second part of that question was in the, Eddie, in the Green Hill, do we see the kinds of things that Mike was talking about the kids bonding across, you know, who's in there? Because I know from last year's discussion that you do use care and who's in the room together.
Absolutely. You said we use care?
Yeah, there's selections, whether that's across gangs, you know, like, you know, who cannot literally be in the room together. But are they, are you building that purposely when they are together?
Yeah, well, the whole point is, you know, the decision is up to them. And what we do know is, you know, I read somewhere a long time ago where it said, you know, a young person's influences in order or his peers, his teachers, and then parents, right? Mm-hmm. And so this peer model is very important because we can present something, but they're really learning from each other and they're able to see things from a different perspective, or they're seeing things that are actually reaffirming their own perspective based on what their peers has to say. But to answer the question, as far as like certain, you know, gangs that are at odds who are in the group, well, we're not just gonna just put you in a group and say, this is what we're doing, and we hope that you get along. If you don't get along, we got something for you. Because then we'll be doing a disservice, right? And so what we've been able to do is partner with Green Hill staff, and before every group that we do have, we actually interview each one-on-one, and we literally give them the choice. This is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, does it sound like something you would do? Oh yeah, you know, because it's all volunteer. You're not forced to do this. You don't, it's not a requirement. This is, we don't even want you if you're forced to be in here, right? And so this is all volunteer. And so we give them the option. Yes, there may be one other person who is from a rival gang. Are you okay with being in this group with this particular young person? And 9 times out of 10, they actually are cool with it. You know, they say, you know, as long as he's not tripping, I'm not tripping. And then, you know, that's an opportunity where we're able to actually, you know, present some facts to them where they're seeing each other more than just he's a rival gang member, right? So.
Well, if I could chime in real quick, I think, Eddie, you mentioned something that I kind of glossed over in my talk that I think is a real key to success in programs like yours, which is you give these young men in particular a place where they can talk to each other in ways that they never in any other social setting have a chance to talk to other men or kids their age in this way, right? And one of the real, I think, that a group mentoring program has for boys and young men in particular is that you got to do some work to get to that point before they'll open up and talk about their vulnerabilities, right? So sometimes I'm guessing you have to share a lot about your past, or other adults have to open up a little bit before they do. But once you've created that safe environment where they can be vulnerable with each other, question the way that they see the world, and off of each other in that way, that is a gift for any young man in our society, because we don't give them, unfortunately, a lot of use to do that kind of work on themselves with other men. And I just feel like that kind of, that element, the fact that you make space for that kind of dialogue is awesome. So
absolutely,
definitely doing the right thing there for sure.
Awesome.
No, thank you for that, Mike. And just to add a final piece, Victor, I know we're going to schedule, but you know, just to piggyback off what he just said, you know, I think it's very important, a huge piece that, you know, I see a lot of groups, and you know, I don't want to down talk nobody, but a lot of this is not out of love, right? And so what we operate is strictly out of love, care, and concern, and that comes across, right? You know, if a young man gets a facilitator or a teacher who is literally just going through the motions, you really don't care if I get this or not, right? They're going to pick up on that. And I think, you know, that definitely speaks to why this young person is not excelling or advancing as he or she could, right? And so, you know, we definitely operate with that love factor. And if speaking for myself personally, you know, I always like to say, I'm the person in these young folks' lives who I didn't have in my life. And so it's a deeper purpose.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm sorry to be rushing people along. I truly appreciate all of the different perspectives. And Eddie, yours is one that I imagine most of us don't hear frequently. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak. You as well, Tom. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have Karen Warlock to explain Bellevue School District's group mentoring style, how it's been affected, and what they're implementing to maintain the program. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, great to see you all, and thank you to Janet and Victor for hosting us for these get-togethers. I feel like I'm going to be reiterating a lot of the things that we've already heard, but Bellevue School District started about 4 years ago to do what we call the Boom Conference and the Shout Conference. And the Boom Conference is where we bring together all of our male students of color for a one-day conference at Bellevue College. And then the Shout is for our young ladies. And these events happen once a year. And what we heard from students over and over again is, you know, we feel really isolated in our schools. Bellevue is really white. We can go, you know, we're often the only person of color in our classroom, and we need to be seeing each other and supporting each other more often. So last school year, the school district decided to set up a group mentorship program for kids of color, and 99% of our kids are kids of color in the school district. And we bring students to our central office in a big conference room where the board meetings are, and we have them for the whole day. We give them breakfast, we give them lunch. And I think the most important part of our day is we do a talking circle. And our facilitators are our equity specialists. And Randy Nunez is the one that really focused on group mentorship and talking circles to start with. So we all sit in a big circle, the students, the mentors, school district staff, and we share and we ask students to be vulnerable. So we usually start with, you know, we have an altar in the center. You know, what did you bring to share on the altar? What do you have with you today that speaks to who you are as a person? And then we do some low risk kind of prompts like, you know, what is your name? Where did your name come from? And then we work up to higher risk prompts. And we sit in the circle for, you know, an hour and a half, probably a good hour and a half. And the boys especially have developed this amazing vulnerability in the group. They say things that they don't say to their friends at school, that they don't say to each other necessarily outside of group yet. And then having the staff there and community mentors who are all people of color. I'm usually the only white person in the room. They need to see that. They're not seeing that. They don't have teachers of color in school. They don't have enough of them anyway. They don't have counselors of color. And so after we have lunch, we usually do one of two things. We either have group activities or we have a speaker come in. So for example, we had a speaker come in once for the girls group, and she did Cardi B and respectability politics. And she really engaged with the students and got conversation going, and the girls really loved that. Sometimes we do activities, you know, draw your ideal superhero, you know, what are the things that you most need to have to survive in school? And we find that race comes up just over and over and over again in the circles, in the activities. The kids are facing racism in the school from students, from other teachers, and they've not had anywhere previously to kind of address this. So how COVID has changed all this. We just don't have that eyes on. It is very different. We have been continuing to meet online to do group mentorship, but we usually have 40 kids in the classroom with us. And, maybe we have 5 to 10 students show up for the online group mentorship. So one of the things that we've done is decided not to include the community mentors in it because it's just way too many adults when we do that. And I think that's been helpful. So it's been me and the equity specialist in the group. We've also started some smaller talking circles, especially with our girls. Our boys are a really tight group. They've been really consistent. The same boys come over and over again. And some of the girls have been particularly shy about speaking in group. So I've started some small circles, and they will come to that, and they will talk and be honest and open. And also doing a lot of one-on-one work that we weren't doing previously with students. So it's been, it's been a change. And we also don't have a program coordinator right now. So I'm trying to fill in and do that kind of work.
Thank you.
So that's what we're doing at Bellevue School District, yeah.
Really quickly, I see Patsy Haber is in the chat, and I'm wondering, Patsy, if you would want to say something about your girls group. Oh, you're unmuted. Can
Unmute Patsy.
She's not muted.
Oh.
It was a good idea, but it might not be able to kick off.
So I'll say something while you're working on that. I'm going to say something about Patsy's group. Okay, Patsy, can you hear me? Yeah, she's going to say, are you serious? When I went to Lopez Island, where Patsy has been leading the Lopez Island Family Resource Group mentoring program in a really, maybe an island or community of 3,000 people. Patsy, can you speak now? Because I'm going off on a tangent. So Patsy, then they have a one-to-one community-based program as part of the Family Resource Center. There's this wealth of summer activities because they can't just go to the city, right, and do something. They're outside in nature or outside in nature. And Patsy then started a girls group that's, I think, middle school girls, and it's composed of girls that are in one-to-one mentoring and also girls that are like their classmates. I'm looking for Patsy to link in sometime. Patsy leads this in her house. She adores the group, and I can't say so much what's happening between, but sort of some of the things that you were talking about, Karen. Of course, a different group of kids, Eddie, but I think they really get at it, as opposed to, they're not doing crafts at Patsy's house. They may, but there's like this under thing of really connecting. And the piece that I would say about the importance to them is that they don't miss this. It happens so often. Here's a woman, Patsy, who's taken this on, loves it. It happens at her house. And when she was in the hospital recently, she said, I just hate it. I miss my girls group. So a variety of ways of really, I don't know about little kids, but that part about peers that that number of you've talked about how desperately and important that is for them to be in a safe place to talk. That's all I can say, Patsy.
So really quickly, because Patsy, even though you're not muted, we can't hear you. Really quickly, I want to point out we have got 4 more minutes, and I just want to say I appreciate everyone for taking the time out of their day to attend the session. If there are any questions that we're unable to answer, email me and I will be sure to respond. If you were unable to attend a previous session and would like to view the recording, the Athena Forum has posted it on their website, and I'm going to go ahead and send everyone a link after this meeting so that they can access the previous meetings. Mhm. And then,
Item of business about communicating and sharing, Vic?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Will you ask the question about sharing or contact, inter-participant contact?
That was my next little
Sorry.
So last, I received a number of requests from quick share participants asking if I could share emails and program names. If anyone is uncomfortable sharing their email or their program name, please email me no later than 3 p.m. today. I'm trying to think of a really good way to get that done. So if anyone feels uncomfortable and they don't want to share their contact information, just let me know. And that's
one of the reasons that came up was like, instead of having to have a large, I mean, we've got usually a number of people on, limited amount of time. And for example, Jim was saying, oh, I really want to connect with that person. You know, I want to ask them those questions as opposed to, you know, fielding it with everybody. So as much as we can, we'd love to have that be able to spin off on your private communications.
Yeah, right. And on that note, I just want to thank all of the speakers who took the time out of their day to share with all of the other local programs. We appreciate you, and I look forward to our next meeting, which we are still deciding the topic, but I will let you know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Vic. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.